What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today we're coming at you from the Mobile Command Center to talk some tech. Now, obviously, Set 11 has been out for quite some time. Draft Box 6 is right around the corner. And I wanted to talk about a card that I've been siding slash teching as of late for, mono black strategies. I want to talk about Super Saiyan Bardock, the Tenacious. So the reason I like this card, well, there's a couple of reasons I like this card. I like this card because he's a Bardock. Bardock is a very cool character, one of my favorites. Also, the artwork is awesome on it. And the main reason, though, like all, cosmetic and aesthetic stuff aside, he's technically Black's version of Flying Nimbus. So if we're looking at the card, he's a 25k body, he's a 6-drop, Overwhelm for 6 and 1 black energy, and then his auto is, when this card is played using Overwhelm, your opponent can only attack with battle cards once during your next turn. Auto, when you activate this card's skill, you can't activate more copies of this card for the turn. So you can only play, one copy of this per turn. He's a hard once per turn, but essentially he's a black Flying Nimbus. Now, obviously, where the game is at right now, it does not affect leader swings. It does not affect unison swings. But if your opponent is playing a go wide strategy and you want to shut down their battle cards, i.e. like skillless decks or anything like that, it might be beneficial to tech a couple of these in black decks or at least side it for go wide strategies. I mean, most of the black leaders that we've gotten usually get some type of merit for activating Overwhelm skills. I mean, if we're looking at SS4 Gohan, which we've featured here on this channel, obviously he gets plus 5k and your choice of double strike or critical. The SS4 Goku Xeno leader gets plus 5k for every 8 battle cards in the warp, so that's obviously a plus. And then if you're using older leaders like Demigra or anything like that, you can obviously manipulate your drop area by adding cards from your warp to your drop, so on and so forth. So there is some merit for activating Overwhelm skills in this game. Obviously, they're cheap battle cards that you can play on the board. And obviously the caveat for that is they don't get to survive or they don't get to stay on the board for the duration of the turn. This is kind of like a one-hit swing type thing. But there has been a lot of options recently released for us with the overall mechanic that definitely have, long-lasting effects on the game, if you will. I mean, if you're looking at the black cards just in set 11 that we got, we got the SS4 Bardock that warps 2 cards out of your hand. You got the SS3 Vegeta that pops a card ignoring barrier. And you got your, obviously, Man on a Mission, SS3 Goku, that's double strike critical. I mean, there's a lot of utility with the Overwhelm mechanic, and there's not a lot of energy that you have to commit to playing those battle cards on the board. Obviously, if you're playing battle cards that require restricted black energy, then obviously you have to make that commitment in your deck building process. But this card itself is really interesting because it only costs 1 black energy, and it can kind of save you or give you that next turn, because in the game of Dragon Ball Super, sometimes that's all we really need. So not to mention, he's going to come out for 1 black energy and be a 25k attacker. He's going to be able to save you on the crackback by from your opponent. Now, black has been a color in this game since, I want to say, like in between sets 2 and 3 when they first introduced the Overwhelm block, but it hasn't really had enough legs to stand on its own. And we've obviously had conversations here. We've had conversation on, in the community with other people that Bandai seems to be making more of a commitment and making black its standalone color. And I think set 11 was the first step in the right direction, with restricted black energy being required to pay for summoning costs or play costs and stuff like that. But with that being said, when it comes to counters and counter plays and stuff like that, black is still definitely lacking in that department. I mean, if we're looking at the counter attacks, you have, Power Burst, which is everybody's favorite black negate. You have Protector of the People, which is, an expensive card, not even a scratch, which is graveyard interaction, or drop area interaction rather, but it is a pretty nifty negate. Tibe's Judgment, which is super old. And then when it comes to counterplays and stuff, you have Silver Bullet, you have Super Kamehameha, you have Rebellion Hammer, and obviously Black Max Power Kamehameha is definitely one of the more played black extra cards that we have in our game. But aside from that, there's no real counterplay battle card that black has, that comes in free off of a unison. There's no, like, you know, negates that untap energy, because that's obviously like blue's identity. But, you know, just stuff like that, you can definitely see where if you're looking at cards and making comparisons in a vacuum, black definitely suffers in the defensive category, in my opinion. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but from what I've seen, you know, black, the color black in the game of Dragon Ball Super definitely suffers on the defensive side of the board. Now, I don't know if that's because its intentions of being a color on its own has always been developed as being an aggressive strategy. But I think now moving forward, I think just the game in general, outside of maybe one or two decks, is not heavily aggressive. I mean, obviously you still have your Reboot Gohan leader, which is super aggressive, and you can make the argument that Vegex could be aggressive with a go wide strategy. But for the most part, there's not a lot of aggro, you know, quote unquote aggro decks in the format. I don't really think Majin Vegeta, I don't consider that an aggro deck. Red Broly is aggro, but it's swap aggro. So, you know, it definitely kind of, there's more of a shift in the game, I think, for like mid-range and late game strategies with a lot of these ramp leaders and blue leaders on tapping energy and stuff like that. You know, this Bardock card can definitely help you in the Broly matchup, because most of their attacks are coming from their battle cards when they're going up their swap ladders. I mean, most of the time they're going to be playing a Kale Unison or something like that, but you're not going to really be swinging with Kale because it's only 5k. And then you have your leader swing. So if you can survive a leader swing and then they just have to rely on their battle cards, I think it's a really good answer siding it against Red Broly. Dark Broly is another deck that puts a lot of pressure on the board with 30k battle cards. You know, Bardock could definitely see some play siding that in against Dark Broly, because comboing out of 30k is a nightmare. So being able to stop your opponent in their tracks, not being able to extend their board state, you know, or pressure you with their battle cards, I think is very important. You know, Flying Nimbus, when it first came out, definitely had a very strong presence in the meta. It was the first of its kind as far as counterattacks are concerned, you know, being able to stop, you know, your opponent's turn with very minimal cost. It was just one energy and pitching a yellow card from your hand. So defensively, it definitely had a lot of capabilities, and it allowed you to get that next turn. I mean, it definitely has fallen off in recent sets because of the introduction of Unison cards and leaders that could restand and continue to just go off. Obviously, it's not really good in leader-based aggression or anything like that, but I still think it has its place in the game, being able to stop your opponent, you know, from activating multiple attacks or attempting multiple attacks. So in my opinion, Bardock the Tenacious is a close comparison to Flying Nimbus for the black color. For those of you who are exclusive players of black or definitely have black splash in the deck, obviously, you know, this is definitely an option for siding. Normally, you know, normally when it comes to side decking, a lot of black cards are just inside, you know, in general, because they have no restricted cost. And even though Bardock doesn't have a restricted cost, his effect being played with Overwhelm does require you to tap a black energy. So obviously it's not as splashable as black cards have been in the past, but if you're playing a mono black strategy, or if you're playing a dual color strategy that charges black, you could definitely, you know, benefit from having this card in your side deck. So let me know what you guys think about this card in the comment section down below. Aside from the art and being one of the cooler characters in the entire Dragon Ball franchise, do you think it has some utilities and applications in our game as it is today? Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.